Jim Webb had put in a provision in the Senate version, and there was one in the House version as well that said that the president cannot attack Iran without first getting congressional authorization. Most sensible thing in the whole wide world. In fact, that's what the Constitution says. The Constitution says that Congress has the right to declare war and not the president.
In fact, every time.
Every single time. So it said you cannot go into Iraq without conferring with Congress. Now, don't get me wrong, it was not absolute. Jim Webb had 3 different exceptions for that rule, including hot pursuit. And he said, okay, we get it. Somebody's harmed. You're doing hot pursuit. You go in, cross the border. But then you got to come back to us in a certain period of time, 24, 48 hours, whatever it is. Come back and tell us, and we'll say, okay, that makes sense, or it doesn't make sense, and we'll decide if we want to take further action or not. Let's get this thing, under the rule of law. Let's get it to be follow the United States Constitution. Unfortunately, not the Republicans. Within the Democratic caucus, that provision was defeated and taken out of the bill. Okay. Now, what do you think Dick Cheney and George Bush are going to interpret that as?
Let's drop bombs.
They're going to interpret that as a giant blinking green light. It's go time. Okay. The Democrats couldn't even gather up the balls to go ahead and say, hey, listen, you need to do what is obvious, which is come to Congress if you're going to attack Iran. They specifically took it out of the bill before they even brought it to the Republicans. And since they took it out of the bill, Cheney and Bush are going to say, hey, listen, man, look, I had this authorization to use force in the Middle East. You had an opportunity to put in something saying, hey, don't attack Iran unless you're clear with me. So you took it out. Not the Republicans. The Democrats took it out. So I guess you agree that I have the authority to attack Iran, and I don't need to come and ask you.
They just ceded their congressional authority.
They ceded it entirely.
Without a fight. Without a filibuster. Without anything.
They're the majority. They didn't even put it in their own bill. Representative Gary Ackerman, a Democrat of New York. I didn't think it was a very wise idea to take things off the table if you're trying to get people to modify their behavior and normalize it in a civilized way. So in a civilized way, we're going to put your utter and complete destruction on the table. So that's a civilized thing to do. You're going to go into negotiations with Iran and say, we might wipe you off the planet because we're civilized.
Which, by the way, Israel doesn't need our help in this. Israel has sea-launched ballistic missiles. They have submarines with nuclear missiles in them, which means Iran could launch everything they have at Israel. Israel will still take out Iran. It's mutually assured destruction.
See, here's the thing, right? Here's the amazing part of this. And this is why I say the Israeli lobby doesn't really represent Israel. It represents only the most strident, nuts, right-wing part of Israel, okay? Because these guys, the Netanyahus and the right wing of Israel, can't convince their own government to do this attack, okay? Because they feel threatened, right? And if they feel threatened...
They also realize it's crazy.
Right, because the Israeli people and the Israeli government realizes it's nuts to attack Iran. Okay, why are you going to get into that war? That's not going to help you. They can't convince their own government, but they come over here and they tell the people to heal, and they heal. So they come in here and they say to the Democrats, the Republicans are already hopeless. I already got it. Don't bother sending me an email, oh, don't attack Democrats because the Republicans are worse. I know the Republicans are worse. We're way beyond that, okay? But here you are, within the Democratic caucus, they won. They won within the Democratic caucus. They came in here and said, you sit down. You are not allowed to put a provision in there that says if you're going to attack Iran, you must get congressional authorization, which is the exact constitutional thing to do. You are not to follow your Constitution. You are not to do what you told people you were going to do. You are not to follow your constituency. You are to follow what I tell you to do. And what did they do? They went along with it. It's sickening. It bothers me to no end. And we're going to get people who are apologists for it. No, you don't understand. Israel's our big, big buddy. And if they want to attack somebody, we got to go along and do it for them. And we got to let the president and Dick Cheney do it for us. Ridiculous. Absolutely outrageous. That Israeli lobby said, that it was in Israel's interest to attack Iraq. How did that work out? It turned out it didn't work out very well for Israel, did it? Or the United States. Now you got more Shiite extremists. You got more Sunni extremists. You know what Shiite and Sunni extremists hate? Israel. And what do we get? We got it from the Iraq War. You got a whole destabilized Middle East. And what do we get? Does a whole destabilized Middle East help Israel? No. It hurts Israel. You got to strengthen Iran. And what does that help? Does that help Israel? No. It hurts Israel. But you got this right-wing lobby pretending that they represent Israel while totally screwing Israel totally screwing the United States, and you got a bunch of cowards, including in the apparently a majority of the Democratic caucus, who say, oh, well, they told me it's Israel. They told me it's Israel. They told me they represent Israel, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to do whatever they tell me, even though it doesn't make any sense, and it's unconstitutional.